Hello, and welcome to this presentation about the DAT with DAT Bootcamp. My name is Alex, and I'll be your host for today. In this presentation, we're going to cover everything you want to know about the DAT and its procedures. So let's get started. So what is the DAT? The DAT is known as the Dental Admissions Test. The DAT is designed to measure general academic ability, comprehension of scientific information, and perceptual ability. It is required by all schools in North America, with the exception of a few Canadian schools. More on the DAT, it is a standardized test. It is completely multiple choice, and it's composed of four main sections. Those are the natural sciences, perceptual ability, reading comprehension, and quantitative reasoning. So first, let's talk a little bit about the survey of the natural sciences. So it's comprised of the biology section, the general chemistry section, organic chemistry section, for a total of 100 questions, and you'll have 90 minutes to complete this section. The survey of the natural sciences is also known as your total science score. Up next is the perceptual ability test. Now this is comprised of 6 subsections for a total of 90 questions. And those sections are keyholes, top front end, angle ranking, hole punch, cube counting, and pattern folding. You'll have 60 minutes to complete this section, and this will comprise of your PAT score. After the break, you'll be doing the reading comprehension test. Now this contains 3 passages on various scientific topics with a total of 50 questions. Prior understanding of the passage is not a prerequisite for this section. This section tests the ability to read, comprehend, and analyze information. You'll have 60 minutes to complete this section, and this will comprise of your RC score. And lastly, we have the quantitative reasoning section, also known as the math section. You'll have 40 mathematical problems to solve in algebra, data analysis, interpretation, sufficiency, quantitative comparison, and probability and statistics. And this will comprise of your QR score. You'll have 45 minutes to complete this section, and a basic calculator will be available to you as the one shown right here. So how is the DAT scored? Well, scores range from 1 to 30, with the average score hovering around an 18. It is a scaled test, so that means that it accounts for differences between uniqueness of different tests and different difficulties among tests. The academic average is composed of your bio score, your general chemistry, organic chemistry, reading comprehension, and quantitative reasoning. Your total science score is composed of biology, general chemistry, and organic chemistry. And your PAT score is separate from the others, and it's not factored into your academic average. So here's an example of a score report. As you can see, we have all the individual sections here on the left with their corresponding scores right here on the right. You will receive this sort of printout at the end of the quantitative reasoning section, and we hope you get one just like this. Fun fact, this student actually used DAT Bootcamp for their prep, and they mentioned that it was a must on their preparation. A little bit more about score reports. So when you receive your score report, it is considered an unofficial score. It has to be verified by the ADEA, and this verification process takes roughly 2 to 4 weeks. And also remember that each attempt is recorded, so even though you may not send out the score to individual schools, when you do send out your official score, each attempt will be recorded and they'll be able to see that. So essentially what I'm trying to say is, don't use the DAT as a practice run the first time around. You want to do your best the first time around and get it over with. Additionally, right here is a screenshot of the AdSAS portal where we can go under the Check Status tab and we can scroll down right here to the Standardized Tests, and we can see that whenever I took my test, it was on June 27th and it was verified on July 13th. So roughly 2.5 weeks to get verified. So keep that in mind when you're applying so you don't run into any sort of delays with your application, as it will not be complete until everything is verified on it. Let's talk a little bit about retakes. Now, to understand retake, we first have to understand what an attempt is considered. An attempt is considered whenever you start the test and you agree to a confidentiality statement. So this means that if you do not show up on test date, it does not constitute as an attempt. Remember that between attempts, you have a 90-day cool down period. This means that within this 90-day period, you will not be able to take the DAT again, and this is a very strict rule. Additionally, after 3 attempts, you have to petition for each additional attempt of the DAT. And it goes along with a 1-year cooldown period between attempts after 3. So keep that in mind. A little bit about the testing schedule. So you want to arrive 30 minutes prior to your appointment. And then from there, you'll you'll go through registration and the whole process, and then you'll be able to begin your test. In the beginning of your test, you have an optional 15-minute survey. Afterwards, you have a survey of the natural sciences, and you'll have 90 minutes to complete this section. This is your biology, your general chemistry, and your organic chemistry. You have your perceptual ability test following right after the survey of the natural sciences. You'll have 60 minutes to complete this section. After that, you'll have a scheduled break for 30 minutes, and I highly recommend that you do take this break, or perhaps 20 minutes at that break, or 15, just to clear your mind. Perhaps you want to have a snack, you want to have a drink, go to the washroom. This is the time to do it. You do not want to go during an unscheduled break, as your timer will not stop. It will continue going the whole way through. After your break, you have the reading comprehension section, which will last for 60 minutes. And lastly, as I mentioned, the quantitative reasoning test will occur at the end, and you'll have 45 minutes to complete this section. Right after the quantitative reasoning test, you will get a printout of your scores, and you'll see it on the computer screen. So don't get too excited as I did. Also, you have the optional post-test survey for 15 minutes, and so you have your total time at 5 hours. However, your total test time is 4.5 hours. Also remember that breaks outside of the scheduled break have restrictions. This means that you cannot access your locker, and all you can basically do is just go to the bathroom. You won't be able to access any study material, so make sure you don't do that, as that will be a violation. So how do you get registered for the DAT? So firstly, you want to get what's called a DENT PIN, and that's your Dental Personal Identification Number, and you can register for that right on this website on the ADA. After you register, you can then apply to take the DAT via this website on the ADA. And this process of verification to apply takes a few days. Once you get verified and processed, then you'll be able to apply to take the DAT within a 6-month eligibility period. This means that if you do not take it within the 6-month eligibility period, you will have to repay all your fees, which I'll get to later, and go through the process again. Also, be sure that all your names match on all the documents you provide with this DENT PIN and while you're registering for the DAT, as if things do not match, you will not be able to take the test. So when you're scheduling your test, you'll have two options. You could either go to prometric.com, or you can call their number right here. Remember that no shows is equal to forfeit fees, and however, it does not constitute as an attempt. So keep that in mind. However, the ADA does offer what's called a request for relief in case of an emergency, and those requests can be filed right here. Should you have any problems during your test, be sure to let the test center administrator know and make sure that problem was documented. Okay? This way, if you do want to retake the test, as they may offer that to you, you will not have to pay any additional fees. Let's talk a little bit about the testing fees. So the DAT fee costs $460 to take. This is for you to register for the DAT and go through that process. So keep that in mind, as it's no small chunk of change. Additionally, there's a few other fees right here listed that you can look at. However, they're not very important for this presentation. Rescheduling fees. So let's say that you want to reschedule your test. So what kind of fees are we looking at? So as you can see, 1 to 5 business days prior to your testing appointment is $100. 6 to 30 business days is $60. And 31 or more business days prior to your appointment is a $25 fee. Which is essentially why I always tell students, do you want to take the 2009 ADA practice test roughly a week and a half before your scheduled appointment? That way, if you aren't scoring where you want to, you could always reschedule that, and you're saving $40 right here, because you'll be paying the $60 fee as opposed to paying the $100 fee. So let's talk a little bit about the test day procedures. What happens on test day? So you will be required to bring 2 original forms of valid ID. So you'll have to bring either a primary and a secondary, or 2 primary IDs. And so a primary ID is essentially a government issued ID with your photo, your name, and your signature. So some examples of those will be your passport or your driver's license. A secondary ID only has your name and signature. So that could be your credit card or a library card, something like that. And remember, names must match with the DAT application on all your IDs. Otherwise, they will not be valid and you will not be able to take the test. So don't make that mistake. A little bit more on test day procedures. So when you get to test day and you'll be going through the registration process, remember, you will be photographed, you will be fingerprinted, you will be scanned with a metal detector, you will be inspected, there will be cameras everywhere. So keep that in mind whenever you're going through this process. Also, invigilators cannot answer any questions regarding the test content, testing software, or scoring, so do not ask them. Also, you'll have no access to personal belongings or a locker during an unscheduled break This is a violation, as I mentioned earlier. Only during that scheduled break for 30 minutes in between your PAT and your RC section will you be able to have access to your locker. Lastly, so what will you be given on test day? So you're going to sit down on your computer and you'll be given what's called 2 note boards. And these are essentially laminated papers. You'll also be given 2 low-odor fine tip markers to write on them. It'll be both sides. One side will be a grid and the other one will be blank. Remember, there will be no writing on the noteboard during the tutorials or scheduled breaks, so don't do that, as that is a violation as well. And also, noteboards can't be damaged, so that means you can't fold them during hole punch or something along those lines. Essentially, you want to give them back in the same condition that they were given to you with your notes on them. Should you need any additional noteboards during the test, you can always raise your hand and the invigilator will place the noteboards for you. So don't think that you only have 2 during the entire time. So thank you for listening to this presentation from all of us at DAT Bootcamp. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Have a wonderful day.